So this is the Tele-Native Youth webinar episode called Back to School and COVID. We have students that are in high school, college students, graduate students, and professionals in the field that work within the school district that are here to talk to us about a conversation about how they are navigating the school year under COVID. So my name is Jarrett Work. We have Riley Work, Lonnie Romo, Isabel Madrigal, and Anpo Jensen today as our guests. So a little bit about me. I am the communications lead for the Center for Native American Youth. I am Aani and Nakota from Fort Belknap, Montana, and I live here in Reno, Nevada. So I would like to now open it up to everyone to introduce themselves. We can start with Riley. Riley's my little cousin, and I am so excited to have her a part of this conversation. And then we'll move down the list. So Riley.
Hi, my name is Riley Work. I am a junior at Hayes Lodgeville High School in Montana. I am Aani and Nakota, and I appreciate everyone who is watching this right now, and I hope you enjoy everything.
Okay, next we'll go with Lonnie. Thank you, Riley.
My name is Lonnie Romo. I'm from Pyramid Lake. I am a school counselor here in Nevada. I'm at a high school here in Nevada.
Thank you, Lonnie. Lonnie and I actually went to college together, so it's so great to see her, doing what she does and to have her a part of this panel as well. And then next we'll go to Isabella.
Mioche Nunetu Isabella Madrigal. Hello, everyone. My name is Isabella Madrigal. I'm an enrolled member of the Kuya Band of Indians in Southern California, and then also of Turtle Mountain Chippewa descent. And I'm currently a freshman in college, and I'm super thrilled to be here with everyone today.
Last and certainly not least, we have Anpo Jensen. Thank you so much, Isabella. Anpo.
Mintakiapi, Chantel, Ashtena, Pechiuzape, Anpo Jensen, Imachiapi, Nawazia, Haha, Ematahana, Kyuksa, Tiushpai Mataha. I'm from Pioneer, South Dakota. I'm a Oglala Lakota from the Kyuksa band. And I am a second-year master's student at Stanford University, and I study environmental engineering.
Great. Well, thank you all for your time, and thank you for being here, and thank you for bearing with us with these technical difficulties. So let's go ahead and get into the conversation today. We can start off with a grounding. So what have you all been doing to stay connected, healthy, and happy during the COVID-19 pandemic? We can start with Riley, and then we'll go down the list again.
I'd have to say I've just been mostly focusing on my education in school. I recently enrolled in college classes at the community college here in Fort Belknap, and I'd say it's pretty enjoyable. I do also just, do daily things and activities outside and spend time with my family and everything. It's just enjoying whatever I can, I guess.
Yeah, that's really good. When I went back home, I was back home a couple of weeks ago, and it was just so different to be back home. And it was just so good just because there's so much stuff to do outdoors, like our canyon and everything like that. It was really refreshing to be able to go back home. And then now we'll move over to Lonnie. So what have you been doing to stay healthy and happy?
So I have two daughters, and I've been having, the extra time with them at home. They're both home. They're both doing distance learning, so they're both home, and we take care of my grandpa. So we've been doing, special things with him in the evening. I have the week off. It's fall break, so I have all these plans for him because he gets to be home too. So we want to get him out and, at least ride out of town.
That's good. Isabella?
Kind of along the same lines. I think being with family during this time has been super grounding and really rewarding my grandmother came and stayed with us for a little while in the first few months of the pandemic, and so it was nice to be able to be with her during that time. For me as well, going outside has been huge thing to make myself feel better from day to day. I think in the beginning I was cooped up inside a lot, but being able to go on walks and scheduling that with my younger sister or my mother is super great too. So yeah, just a lot of family time and taking a second to just breathe.
Yeah, it's super important, especially during these times where we're supposed to be like cooped up and in the house. It's really important for us to have this time to be able to go outside and connect with the outdoors and everything like that and stay grounded. Ampo?
Yeah, so I kind of have like a two-part experience. The first one is when I was home. My family, we started a garden together, and by the end of the summer, it was like a really giant garden, and we harvested a lot of squash. And like something really, I guess, really unique is that I got to go through and experience a lot of I guess ceremonies I wouldn't have otherwise if I was at school. So like the inipi, the sweat lodge, got to go to that more often, and I feel like it really helped my schoolwork in that sense. So I think I was really lucky to have my family with me and my friends, and or not my friends, but my sisters are my friends, but yeah, so I felt really lucky at the beginning of the pandemic and throughout the summer. But I came back to campus and it got a little bit different. The challenges were different, kind of cooped up in the room because of the fires in California. So, but something I'll always have to do is just rely on my spirituality, and just use that to get me through. But yeah.
Thank you. So let's get into the conversation now, and we'll start off with Isabella. So you're a freshman at Harvard University. Can you tell us a little bit about your transition from high school to Harvard? And are you taking classes remotely or are you doing them in person?
Yeah, so right now I am kind of doing both. They invited the freshmen onto campus, but it is all remote learning. So all the professors are at home and we just kind of learn from our dorms. So it is very much of a hybrid experience. I'm actually originally from Temecula, California. So making the decision to come to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and just to Harvard generally was definitely a big one because it is so far away from what I call home and my family. So originally I had always seen myself as staying close to home for college, but then in my senior year of high school, I kind of discovered I wanted some sort of change, and that really drew me to the East Coast. I expected it to be a really huge transition, and I'm only going to be here for 3 months, and then I'm going to be back home for the remainder of the semester. So I think that also makes it a little different, and I think probably a common experience throughout COVID is just it can be a little isolating, and I think I've definitely experienced some of that, being away from family, being in a whole different place and something that's totally unfamiliar. But I found it pretty rewarding, and kind of just recognize the importance of being mindful of my presence in this new area and the community, which I think is super important as well. So yeah, it's simultaneously isolating, but also I think it draws a community together because we really are. A lot of us are experiencing some of the same things, and so talking about that is super crucial and important.
Yeah, and one of the things that we were talking about before we hopped on was how you're finally being able to experience a real fall.
Yeah.
From like SoCal to the East Coast where you're experiencing fall for the first time. So
Yeah,
really exciting.
it's very exciting. It's beautiful over here. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Next, we will go to Lonnie. So all things considered with COVID-19, access to resources about mental health is very important. And how are you continuing to counsel students during the pandemic?
So when we first the pandemic first hit in March, we were all sent home and we were checking in with our students, students that we knew needed that extra support, I was checking in, emails, phone calls home. And then we relied a lot on the teachers that talked more to the daily with the students that way. And if they had anything to report, we went off that. But it was very, very difficult because we weren't able to check in with as many students as we'd like, especially face to face. They can, so we relied heavily on the teachers, and a few parents reached out. But now, since we've been back in school, we can meet with students and check on them and see where they're at, and see where their needs are. But I think it's hard, and I think we're missing more than we can serve. I think it's been tough.
Yeah, well, thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for being that person, reaching out to kids, especially during these times, because that's super important to know that, you have somebody outside of your immediate family that's, checking in on you, making sure you do well and everything like that. And it's very important. So let's move on to AMPO. Being that graduate studies differ from high school or undergrad studies in the materials that are presented, has virtual learning affected your ability to fully engage in learning?
I was thinking about this for a while, and I felt like, I went through a lot of culture shock in undergraduate at Stanford, like in person. And that was a really challenging thing. And, I had a lot of, I think my first year was also, I think we're getting a video from Ruben. But yeah, my first year was probably a little bit more challenging because I was in person, and I often was like the only woman in the room sometimes, and most times just being in engineering. And it's nice because I don't have to deal with that. So I think that's a, really, I guess, an opportunity. Something my mom always teaches me is to look at the opportunities and the challenges. And so that's one. And then as far as impacting my learning, I think you learn a lot of, self-advocacy and of self-directed learning in college. So it's basically the same thing. I'm teaching myself. I have to be accountable, have to reach out. So I feel like it hasn't really had a negative impact on me because I did the heavy work in undergrad. But yeah, I think it's going well so far. But yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I know when I left home, and it was definitely, you have to learn, you teach yourself what your learning style is, and whether that's, in person or, online, you still have to learn and figure out what works best for you. So I'm glad you're able to do that in undergrad and then continue that into graduate school. So Riley, what are some of the cultural activities you or your school has done to help make learning more fun during this pandemic? I know when we were back home, there were a couple of different activities that the school was doing that I was like, oh, this is cool. I wish they would have done this when I was a kid. So can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so we got to have Native American Week before the reservation shut down and everything. And they would have different groups go in on certain days. Like Group A would go Monday, Group B would go Tuesday until Thursday, because we don't have instruction on Fridays. But they had a lot of really interesting activities for the students to participate in. Like they had storytelling in the evenings, and they had horse therapy and everything. And then on Thursday, which day that I went, they had a traditional feed, and everyone, within, of course, sanitary guidelines and everything. But we still participated in it, and I thought that was really unique and interesting. And yeah, I admire that for our school, because our school is really culturally immersed, and we take time every single day, not even Native American Week is just every single day we preach and try to instruct the students on the culture, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that's something that I really like respect about Hayes Lodgepole is that they're such a small school, but they care so much about their students. And it's not just like a teacher-student relationship. You're actually like a part of the family, and they really want you to succeed and to do great things. I know when COVID first hit, I had reached out to Natasha and asked her like, "What are you guys doing?" And she told us about all of the great things that Hayes Lodgepole was doing. Like they were hand delivering, in the safest way possible, lunches to their students, making sure that those kids are still eating, and they were delivering like, coursework and everything like that, just to keep that education still flowing and to still show that they care about you kids. Ruben, are we able to hear you now? Oh, we can't hear you still. Yeah, we can't hear you. I will keep the ball rolling then. So next we have Isabella. So as someone who has transitioned from high school to college during this time, what advice do you have for other young people that will be graduating or attending higher education? I know when we were talking earlier, you were saying that you felt like you really didn't have that closure for senior year. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that, what you've learned thus far?
Yeah, definitely. So just my experience, and I think obviously that's going to be a little unique with kind of the pandemic kind of cutting off the end of senior year for me, not really having the graduation or kind of the last moments of senior year that I think are usual, are the norm. Definitely was a little different, and it kind of, makes it feel like a little bit like you're just going straight into college from high school, which I guess, is probably a similar experience. I'm sure not everyone feels totally prepared going into college at the end of their senior year. And I really think that transition can be so overwhelming, especially if it is somewhere far from home, or if you're used to being, with immediate family, and then kind of removing yourself from that, I think can be a stressful experience. And so I guess some advice I would give is I would just say it's so important to kind of take care of yourself, stay grounded. And something that I've come to, realize is that it's okay to feel lonely or unprepared or stressed during the first few months. It's okay to not be totally and completely comfortable and happy, because that'll just come with time, I think. But I think one way that you can kind of help ease that transition is to kind of figure out the priorities that you want to invest in. Sleep as much as possible, find a support system. You know, I know that for me, my passions outside of maybe my academic interests, I really love, theater, acting, creative writing. And so I've tried to get involved in some groups like that on campus. The Native American groups on campus, I think, can be a huge support system. Everyone, that I talk to always stresses the importance of kind of getting involved in that community, which can be so unique to the college experience. As I know from my high school, being one of the only natives besides my sister at the high school, and then going to college where there are, quite a few of us, it's really a neat experience as well. Yeah, so I would just say, take time for yourself to breathe, to lean into the transition, and don't think that you have to master everything, right? I think a common experience for BIPOC is like imposter syndrome. Sorry about that. Something that a lot of us kind of experience. I know I've experienced some of that, but I think it's just important to know that you belong wherever you are, and to kind of be bolder than maybe you usually would. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Great advice. Great advice. Yes, I know when I left home and went to college, away from my family and everything, finding that community and that support group is super helpful. That's like where I met Lonnie. So, yeah, definitely. You made a lot of great points. Thank you. Next question we have Lonnie, so in efforts to minimize COVID-19 spread, some schools instituted and adopted staggered days where students come in classrooms only a few days a week. Oh, did you hear me? I think I
Not
was.
the whole thing.
Okay, I'll do it again. So in order to like minimize COVID-19, some schools have implemented staggered days where students go, specific days a week. Do you feel as like a staff person, do you feel as though this is an effective way of learning and for teaching students given the circumstances?
I think we're all in this. It's a learning experience. I don't think we truly know what's going to work best. I know some of the school districts are going every other day, like an A-B rotation. So it's A-B, and then just rolling it into the next week. Some schools are doing a week on, a week off. I'm not sure what works better. I think that this day on, day off, we can see our students more often, and maybe we can help them with their academic or their mental health needs. I think a week is long, but I'm not sure what's going to work better because this is so new to us all. I guess we can find out once we make it through this and, see what the students feel as well and see where they are at the end of this too. Academically, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure what's the best. To have a week on, week off is hard. We're also affected by the smoke from California, so some of our days were missed. Like A day was missed more than B day because of the smoke. We didn't go to school, and then they're also trying to implement the virtual days. And again, not all students have access to internet or Wi-Fi or even a computer or a laptop. So, it's not going to work perfectly for all students.
Yeah, you make a lot of great points. Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. We're all learning new ways of how to navigate this new world that we live in. So I am like really interested in seeing like the statistics and everything once all of this does come and like the data and seeing like, is virtual learning the next big thing or the next step in what we take, or in person, is that the way to be? For me personally, I love in person. I'm a very visual person and I like doing things like with my hands and being there to do that. So I know there's a lot of students that do miss that type of learning. Riley, what do you miss the most about being in school? And when this pandemic is all over, what is some advice about school that you would like to share with the younger generation?
I'd have to say that I really miss interacting with my friends. I don't know, I feel like that's a lot of kids, but yeah, I just really miss like social interaction and being able to talk about school or talk about anything that you want to talk about. But I also really miss like kinesthetically learning because I feel like a lot of students prefer hands-on learning rather than just like visual, like two-dimensional learning. Um, I think that kind of impacted me a lot. I don't really like the whole idea of virtual learning because you can't really go in depth like to each individual student about whatever you're teaching. And I'd have to say that I really really miss being able to kind of have a personal like learning style, I guess, in class. And the advice I would give to younger generations after the pandemic is over is to keep going and keep being strong, like, because this is really difficult. This is really really hard. And especially like the elementary students and everything, I understand that is really really hard for them to grasp and learn because, they're elementary kids and they kind of need to have that hands-on teaching and everything. But after this is all over, it's just don't take the time that you have with your teachers and with your friends for granted, because you never really know when it's all just gonna be gone and everything. And learn to kind of be grateful for the opportunities that you have at your school and within your place that you call home.
Thank you. Thank you, Riley. That was really nice. Yeah, I think COVID has really shown the world that, tomorrow's not promised. So today we really have to, love everybody unconditionally, and, tell your friends, tell your family that you love them every day. You don't know when, like, the next time you're going to see them. As sad as that is, that's the reality. So I think just one thing that I've learned from COVID is just to be open and honest with people. I don't want to, leave anything unsaid to anybody. So, yeah, thank you. And then let's go over to Anpo. So you have continued your education during the pandemic, which is a great accomplishment. Is there anything that we are doing now that our society should continue to do in regards to learning once the pandemic is over? And can you share some of the things that we are doing now that help education system?
So, something I noticed that a lot of educators are doing these days is being very understanding about different backgrounds that people come from, or maybe the different resources we might have, like, maybe someone's internet isn't working a day or so. I think something really powerful about just educators and humans in general these days is I'm seeing a lot more compassion happening and understanding. And I'm seeing a lot of compassion be reflected in ourselves, like being compassionate enough to like, I'm not as productive as I used to be, and that's okay. Or, I don't have to go everywhere all the time. I know when I was an undergrad and then even my first year, I don't think I was ever home in my apartment. I was always like everywhere else and coming back late and sleeping, only to get up right away and go. So I think, something that is, I guess, the light of all this is we're learning a lot about how to organize ourselves in a more like compassionate way. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think we should keep that and keep that for ourselves and our work, because a lot of the I guess the systems, the institutions, they're not sustainable in a lot of ways. And we all know that. And I think COVID-19 really kind of like demonstrated that on like a national and global scale. Like it really showed us what our own flaws are in the system. And so I think, there's a lot to look forward to in terms of like what's happening. I think there's a lot of lessons to learn and a lot of lessons to carry forward. And I mean, that's just kind of how I like to look at things. I know that this will pass. I have a lot of I guess I think the thing I love too about our people in general is we have a lot of fortitude, and we know how to self-advocate for ourselves. So we're not voiceless, and so I think there's a lot in our favor, and I think there's a lot of people coming together and helping each other during this time, and I don't want that to change. I want that to continue, even in school and in our tribes, in our communities. I think there's a lot to work towards and to continue for. So yeah, and I just wanted to say lastly, like I am inspired by all of you, on this talk, and you guys are all doing really amazing things, like all the way from high school, undergrad. Yeah, and I'm very proud of you. I don't know you, but I'm very proud of you, and I hope the best for you all.
Yeah, thank you, Anpo. I think that you said a lot of really, really like important things that we should and continue to do one thing that I've really enjoyed about COVID and interacting in the world that we are today is the virtual communities that we're able to build. I mean, look at all of us today. We're able to tune in from different parts of the country, all, you know, and have this type of conversation here on Zoom. And these could be conversations that we wouldn't, you know, be able to have normally in person. So I think that's really great and something that we should continue to do. One of the last things that I kind of want to like close out this conversation with is this question's open up to everybody is what kind of advice do you have for the younger generations just about education in general? It doesn't have to be COVID related. Just like, what do you want to say to that little, you know, native baby or whatever? Like, what do you want to share with them? And then we can start with Ampo and then circle our way around again. Or whoever wants to go first.
I just want to say, you know, dream, like I'm a dreamer. I dream big, big time. And I think something that I want everyone, I would like all of our little native babies to do is to, you know, you're often you're going to be the only one to believe in that dream. And, you know, maybe not the only one. I'm sure our families will believe in us too. But when you're out in spaces that aren't really created for you, you might be the only one. And I would say you're just gonna have to dig deep and really believe in what you want. I'm sure a lot of us in our lives have been told no before and have been, maybe there have been attempts to derail us off of our path and our education dreams. But I just want to like remind everyone not to listen to them. Be as stubborn as possible and, you know, just go for it. Like, I really don't think there are any limits, and I want everyone to know that.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Let's go to Isabella.
I think I would just say, you know, it's so important. I think especially when you're young to kind of remember who you are, remember where you come from. Community is so important. Be authentic, and also within like places of higher education, the school system, just know that if you hit roadblocks like during your time as you go through these things, and that many times it's not your fault. You know, a lot of these times these systems aren't created to kind of elevate Native voices. So it's so important that you make yourself heard and that you disrupt these systems and say what, you know, what needs to be said, and remember who you're speaking for, I think, and what you want to share and kind of change as well. So that's what I would say.
Yes, use your voice, use your voice. Even if it shakes, use it. Thank you, Isabella. Lonnie?
So again, the two before me said a lot, and just finding your spot within these institutions that are not created for our Native people is important. Like Jarrett said, he and I had met at the center at the University of Nevada because we needed our family within the university, and how that, you know, that relationship helped us. And we had a great advisor, Sandra Mitrovic, and she just pushed us further than we probably ever thought. But dream big, reach for the stars, and find people that are willing to help you. That's one of the big reasons I became a school counselor, because there's not very many Native school counselors here in Nevada. Just being able to help the students. If I could help, I mean, I like to help all students, but if I could help just our Native students, that'd be a dream of mine. But I'm here to help students move on to, you know, whether it's going into the workforce or trade school or university. Just dream big, reach for the stars, and find somebody to help you. There are people out there, or these girls, Ampo and Isabella, are in big schools. They are there, they're willing, I'm sure, willing to help others that would like to fulfill the dreams of being there as well. And again, in mental health, I was thinking, although we are not seeing the students as much as we'd like to, reach out. If you're having some mental health concerns, reach out to your counselor, reach out to your teachers. They will help you find somebody you need to find out. There are national phone numbers and texting and different ways you can reach out. Please reach out if you need help, or if you know somebody that needs help as well.
Thank you, Lonnie. Yes, utilize the resources that are available. Build community. Talk to people. Now's the time where mental health is being destigmatized, and that is very, very important. And build those relationships with people at school. Like when I was at school, Lonnie was like, an older sister or like a cousin, that was there for me. And it was really, really important to build those things, especially being so far away from home. So thank you, Lonnie. You are now going to be our Sandra Mitrovic for these younger kids. The Sandra that we had, you are going to be that person. So thank you so much for that. All right, Riley, take us home.
I'd have to say the advice that I would give to all of the younger generations, is to take advantage of the opportunities that you have in front of you. Like every single one of them that is positive, I would take it to the fullest extent, because you never know when you're going to have like really big educational opportunities like that again. And to not be afraid to be different and study and work hard in everything that you do. Be attentive. Don't be scared to like say anything that you want to say or do anything that you want to do just because your friends, don't want to be the way how you want to be. And be sure and represent yourself well, so that when you go like further on into education, you could become a person of power and a person that everyone could look up to and be like, oh man, I could do that too. If they could do that, then I'm pretty sure I could do that too. And don't be afraid at all of anything regarding your education. Don't be scared to scream out the answer which you feel the most confident in, and like don't be afraid just to do what you want to do regarding your education. If you want to be a police officer, go ahead. If you want to run for president of the United States, go ahead. There's no limits, the sky's the limit, and there are no boundaries. Just do what you want to do, and it'll all work out in the end. Just gotta believe in yourself, I think, is really, really important.
Yes, Riley, thank you. Thank you. Believing in yourself, staying true to yourself, having dreams that, might seem big, but you still want to do them anyway. That's so important. The one thing that my parents always instilled in me was to reach for the stars and to try to change the world. So I think that is a lot like what a lot of people within Indian country and people in general are trying to do, make the world a better place than it was yesterday. So thank you all for being a part of this conversation. I am so honored to be able to share this space with you.